Alright everybody, we are going to look at another game that was played at a Dreamhack Tour, and actually this is one of the matches that was played not on the main stage, but it was played on the off stage and therefore not part of the mainstream either. And I was at Dreamhack, but well, that was one of the matches where a lot of the teams have said, okay, it was a crazy game and you definitely have to check it out. And I thought, well, if I watched the game anyways, I might as well cast it, because a huge part of the audience didn't actually get the chance to see the game in the first place. You might have already wondered a little bit who's playing here, and this is like a group stage match that we saw. It was Dignitas going up against Teh89, and Teh89 is none other than NaVi. It's the ex-NaVi squad. NaVi got rid of the Heroes of the Storm team after Leicester, the first EU regional final, and here at the second EU regional final, they play under the name Teh89, which is also the Twitter account of one of their fans and apparently a long-time supporter of the team. And therefore they said, well, we don't really know what kind of team name we should come up with right now, but we are going to just name our team after him for this event, and they of course want to look at being picked up by an organization. There was a player switch on their part as well. Alex left and is now part of Dignitas, which also caused a role switch within Dignitas, since they already have of course a strong tank player was Jay, but Jay transitioned now over into a role where he plays more melee and ranged assassins for the team, and Alex is now taking over the shot caller role to a certain extent and is currently fitting in with the team. That's of course a lot of adjust for Dignitas. It's not really an easy task for them. Teh89 on the other hand, they had still one position open after Alex left, and they just chose Ethereal Angel for the job because there was a little bit of a swap going on. So we had on the side of Dignitas, they took Alex in, they got rid of Whoopi. The Septi dude, thank you. Cheers for the support, bro. That's a loud one, by the way, like a really loud one.
Thanks for casting. Nice job.
Thanks, bro. So as I was just explaining, there was a complete switch going on. It was like a circle that got closed. So Dignitas took in Alex. Alex left NaVi for Dignitas. Dignitas let Whoopi go, and Whoopi went over to Fnatic, which is now a complete full Swedish squad. And Fnatic, they let Ethereal Angel go, who, you already guessed it, joined Teh89, aka the ex-NaVi squad after that. This is the draft for game number 1, where we have Sky Temples. So as you can already see, it started off with a ban on the side of Teh89. They banned out Zeratul here. More or less a target ban against Dignitas. On this map in particular, he can be quite annoying. We have seen him quite a lot, and Dignitas, they practiced with Zeratul a lot. Dignitas themselves, they immediately reacted with a ban on Illidan. Not really surprising to see that. Illidan has a massive win ratio. He's incredibly strong, and yeah, he get banned out there immediately, which resulted in Teh89 actually picking up Muradin. And Muradin is, in this case, a really cool first pick, because on Sky Temple, you get a lot of value out of Muradin. He can take one of the temples pretty much on his own. He has a huge presence there on the temple and can soak the shots. And he always has that engage potential against an opponent, where he can sit on the temple, just tank the shots, and then when the opponent is moving in and his team wants to fight, he just jumps out and tries to get the stun and puts that in. So the reaction on the side of Dignitas was to head into a Kalthas plus Azul. Kalthas, of course, still one of the highly prioritized heroes in the game right now. The Fire Mage is incredibly strong, has nice zone control as well. With the Phoenix, we have Zul for the pushing power. He can take over the bottom lane at the beginning of the match, but can just overall give you a lot of wave clear, and that can be pretty sweet, because if you fall behind in temples, for example, and you have to rotate back onto the maps, you get a lot of pushing power with Zul and can maybe destroy a few structures and gain more experience than an opponent did with the temple shots, which is really important. He can also just try and get value at the same time and, for example, push the top lane through. So the reaction on the other hand for Teh89 was a Thrall and a Tyrande. You can already see a little bit where this is going. They pick up the Thrall here quite early, and that means that we're having still a Sonya as an option for Dignitas. They decided, as we can see in the draft later on, to not execute that, since they already had Zul. But the Thrall is a great bottom laner now for Teh89, where the solo lane on Sky Temple is usually situated. And with the Tyrande, we are already seeing strong rotations in the early game for Teh89, since they have a Muradin Tyrande for the stun lock comp and can then capitalize with Thrall even with an additional Wolf. That brought us straight into the second ban phase, where for Teh89 we have, for Dignitas first of all, we have a ban on Rhaegar. And Rhaegar is oftentimes a ban that you see, especially when you're afraid that your opponent is going into a double support, a strong double support with a Rhaegar. Tyrande has also then the Thrall plus Rhaegar, which is a very popular comp as well. So Rhaegar got banned out by Dignitas here. They wanted to play the game a little bit with, with the heals. And you can already see another thing that they're trying to do here. I mean, we know as we are looking at the completed draft that they were already thinking about Lunara here, right? And if you ban out Rhaegar, you kind of suggest to your opponent it's a great idea to pick up Uther instead. And Uther traditionally struggles a lot with the the poison damage that Lunara can put out. So that was already a Dignitas trying to move them into a certain direction. Whereas Teh89 banned out Falstad. And Falstad sees usually a bit of a higher priority even on Sky Temple because he is in a spot where he just has that global mobility. We see some teams even going for something like Falstad Dehaka since they want to try and abuse 2 globals against an opponent. But Teh89 is a little bit afraid of that. And they have a really cool attitude towards it, because they are trying to blindside Dignitas. And that is so far really working well for them. If you look at that last pick, we're coming back to that in just a moment, then you already see what's going to come. And guess what? Zeratul and Falstad are not quite target bans against Dignitas alone, but they're also very good heroes against the Vikings, which is something that they are currently trying to play here. So Zeratul banned out and now a ban on Falstad is really playing into their cards. Dignitas moved on to go straight into a Kharazim Lunara. And you can really see what they're doing here. They're first of all saying you know what, Rhaegar, we ban him out. We pick the Kharazim away, and now you're left with a lot of very bad options to deal with Lunara's damage. So they think they're in a really good spot here. But what they didn't really account for is that the ex-NaVi squad just simply says, we don't really care about that because we're going to pick the Vikings right now, and we have Li Ming in our setup. So we have very strong rotations at the beginning of the game. We have a solo laner if we want him at the bottom. We have the Vikings as well. We're going to try to out-soak you, and we're kind of trying to, cheese the hell out of you. It's not really cheese, but you see where I'm going here. Dignitas rounding things up with the Johanna. And while we're seeing the Vikings here, I want to just say one of the things that Aethero Angel talked about. He's now part of the team, and he actually said that when he heads into a tournament with his team, what he's trying to do is that on every single map, he at least has one strategy that is a little bit more cheese-oriented, a little bit more gimmicky, where he's just trying to surprise an opponent and completely just just bitch slap them. And that's what he currently is trying to do with Dignitas here. So Sky Temple is the first map. Dignitas have a really solid setup. Khaldor against the Vikings, not really too bad. You can get a lot of value out of that depending on how good the Viking player is. We're seeing also that Lunara with a ton of damage. They have the Zul for pushing power. So by no means does Dignitas have a bad draft. But this is definitely going to be a really cool game. So we're going to jump into the match right now. It's game number 1 in the best of 3 series played at Dreamhack Tour, the second EU regional final between Teh89 and Dignitas. Game number 1, everybody. We are locked and loaded. We are on Sky Temple, and to the left side we are having Sport Billy on Li Ming for Teh89, the ex-NaVi squad. Zarmany, look at that. He's playing the Tyrande, and I mean, we all know that he's not the main support of the team, and that leaves us with Grand Paquete on the Lost Vikings. That's some Spanish plays right there. Eternal on the Thrall, and Aethero is playing the front line with Muradin. Dignitas on the other hand, we have them with Bakery on Kharazim, Snitch on Lunara, Main on Kelthas, JPL on Zul, and Alex is playing Johanna. We talked during the draft already a lot about the roster changes, so they shouldn't really come as a surprise to you anymore. And on this map now, the first map in the best of 3 series, let's find out what the two teams can really show here. Already we're seeing on the Vikings the bribery, and I mean, all of this is really just going to be Grand Paquete. Vikings are absolutely crucial if you have them in any kind of setup. Usually, of course, you're trying to play them on pretty big maps, even though lately they have become a bit more popular on Dragonshire as well. But we see them mostly on maps like, for example, Garden of Terror. In this case now on Sky Temple, a map where they are also pretty decent and popular still. We're seeing them played by the former, not even the former support player. He is the support player of NaVi and of Teh89. But in this case, they just switched it around. Let's see if Aethero Angel's tactics here are working for them. They missed the opportunity to already Stormbolt and Stunlock someone away when they were trapping in the bush. The idea was a good one. The execution, on the other hand, was not really perfect. But you can really see the play that they're trying to run here. They have Grand Paquete splitting up the Vikings on all 3 lanes, and that leaves 4 heroes open to just roam the map and go for kills. And they're doing that in the middle against Zul. They're trying to get it against JPL. 25 hit points, and there's the kill taken down. Well done. Lunara at the top got a kill as well. As the shrine spawn, we have a quite a bit of a lag spike here, but that's already gone. So yeah, Snitch at the top lane, at least getting one of the Vikings out. That means that someone has to rotate in, of course, to take over the experience. Shouldn't really be an issue. But now we have both of the temples up as well, and that is really starting to become a bit of a crucial point for Dignitas, since they have to attempt to get rid of the Vikings to make some plays here. But because this is a death squad in the making that we are seeing. Those all that damage that Sportbilly can dish out if he gets his skills and his abilities in against the stun lock target is incredible, and that's what they're looking for. At this point, we're seeing at the bottom of the map, Grand Paquette is soaking against Jay, who with Zul has, of course, a lot more pushing power and is going to try and make his life a living hell. But up to the top, we are seeing at the same time the Watchtower taken with decent vision and always the potential for them to just simply move in here. Grand Paquette is soaking all the lanes. The 4-man death squad for Teh89 is still moving around. The level 4 is at least hitting a little bit faster on the side of Dignitas, but not by too much. And now we are seeing a contestation at the shrine to the top, where still Olaf is soaking more shots in the middle on the temple here. So they are getting a lot of the objective, but Zarmany is in trouble. Nice moves, though, by Eternal. They are trying to go in, and they kill from the flank with a nice shot against Mena and Snitch. Lunara and Kelthas both down. Great player from Teh89. And they are starting to look at a very solid situation when it comes to objectives, at least. The mid lane, Soak, on the other hand, had to be abandoned for a moment. One of the Vikings went down. Grand Paquette is now taking over with Balog here and starting to push this back. Jay is on the move. Could try and take him on, though. But Grand Paquette sees it coming and moves away in time. But we're still seeing some experience lost on the side of Teh89. Zul is, of course, rotating between the lanes to just get the pushing power in. And he's doing very well for Dignitas here. He keeps them in the game with this. And he also started to take down the structures at the bot lane. But as you can see up at the top of the map, there is still a few shots remaining on that temple. And Eric the Swift has been chosen on level 4 for Grand Paquette, which is actually a talent that we see a lot on this map, because it allows you to more or less soak one of the temples with Eric alone, or at least a huge amount of the shots, especially in the later stages of the game. It's one of the plays that you often see with Vikings here. We're seeing again Grand Paquette with experience everywhere. Level 4 talents, as I said before, have already been dropped. We're actually closing in on level 7 at this point. But again, that 4-man death squad on the map. And we have for now also a bit of a focus on the missiles on the side of Sportbilly with his Miming. You can see with the Seeker here now too, which is going to be important for him as well. Once again, Stunlock is important here with Zarmany and the Thero running Tyrande and Muradin. Force armor even being used. And in this case, if they can get the Stunlock and Li Ming hits her spells, then this is going to be a bit of a disaster. Nature's Culling now also chosen on the side of Lunara. Snitch is trying to get the extra damage out against, especially the boss then later on, against structures for potential snipes. And we have bosses, or at least bosses not touched yet, but we are having Siege Giants taken. And not only that, they're going for the fight against Alex here, but Olaf goes down first. At the top lane, we still see Lunara, and the camp has been taken by Dignitas. They are definitely not giving this game up by any means. I mean, they are fighting, and they have a huge amount of damage on their side, especially with that Lunara Kelthas combo. At the bottom of the map, of course, the temple is going to spawn pretty soon, and once that happens, this is going to be the contestation point for Teh89, whereas the Vikings are most likely going to try and soak the lanes. But this particular thing, this well down here, this is becoming a bit of a problem for Teh89. They need to try and protect it, or they are going to lose a lot of the sustain that they could potentially have during a fight for the bottom temple and those shots. Level-wise, we have both the teams roughly on the same page, but this is going to become an issue once that the second temple spawns, because this is really where you get a lot of value out of the Vikings, since the temple is on the bottom side of the map, and that leaves mid and top open for the Vikings to soak. So right now, it's all about taking the camps and trying to time them properly, so that you get even more value out of it. And we are having the camp already taken. Eternal times it really well with the announcement of the temple, so they're trying to take that in. But at the same time, there's of course also a lot of AoE damage here on the left. Thero is a bit of a sneaky bastard, though. He's just sitting there and saying like, yeah, they didn't take the camp yet, but they're doing it now, so we might actually even contest that. They're deciding against it, since they don't have everybody here, and it would have been a 4 versus 5 eventually, since Alex would have rotated over with Johanna. But they're attempting now to wait for the rotation of Zul and maybe snipe him. Jay is not doing them that favor, so instead of going to the bottom temple, they're just simply saying, you know what, we're going to go through the top lane. Jay can't do anything against us. We have level 10. We have already 4 heroes here, so what is he going to do? And if they give this up, we are going to have enough damage against these structures anyways. They can also just simply move back, since they they still have the camp pushing and Eric here, but we have Dignitas moving into the mid lane instead, going straight for Grand Paqueta, taking Belok down and trying to not only claim the temple at the bot lane with Karazim, but taking over another temple in, another fort in the mid lane with the remaining squad. And I like this idea. Good thinking on the part of Dignitas, but here comes the rotation from Teh89. They're starting to jump in. So far we have the Poison Nova used, and we see, of course, on the side of Tyrande, this time not the Starfall, but she goes into Shadowstalk, which allows her to mitigate at least some of the damage dished out by these heroics. Thornwood Spines, or Thornwood Vines have been chosen for Lunara. We see the Phoenix on the side of Kel'Thas, who, by the way, went also into a full trade build. Mana Tap taken on 4, the Sunfire Enchantment on level 7, and we're seeing the Fel Infusion on level 1. So trying to go for that damage burst here. Not going for the build that we've seen Mina play in the past with even a focus on the Flame Strike. We're seeing a cleanse on Karazim and another fight down here at the bottom of the map with a bit of a poke here, especially of course on the side of Lunara, who's always trying to get that damage in. For her it's going to be pretty crucial to try and just like get that poke in, especially with a potential unfair advantage after what's on at level 13. The play again on the Vikings doesn't really surprise too much, so when it comes to the abilities, kind of the builds that you would expect in this particular setup. A few adjustments have been made, but overall it's still fairly standard. At the top lane, Grand Paqueta is soaking, and you can really see how he's doing it. He's not even attacking the lane because he wants it to push it in. That means his Vikings are going to be a lot safer. If he starts to just go in and dish out siege damage and push the waves out, then his Vikings are very exposed on the map and easy pickings for Dignitas. So he's trying to play this a little bit more passive so that he can always retreat with the Vikings, and he would force Dignitas to kind of overextend a bit with a hero if they really want to go for one of the Vikings, and then there's always the risk of a rotation trying to take you down. So pretty good thinking on the side of Grand Paqueta. First time that I actually see him on the Vikings, but so far I think he's doing a very solid job on those. We're having bot lane pressure now happening, but Dignitas has actually done a very good job with the way that they controlled the bottom temple and they moved into the middle. They have taken down all of the forts on the side of Teh89. It's a great play by Dignitas here thus far. They are also like controlling the Viking flow very nicely. It's still even experienced in the game though. Another kill against Olaf here, and that leaves us now with level 13 versus 13, and we see backdraft taken by Mena. I have to personally admit that backdraft surprises me slightly. I could have actually seen them go for the fission bomb instead, considering that we have a Viking play here. A good Viking player is always going to tell you that against Kel'Thas he's going to try and just mitigate the living bomb damage by using his jump in time, and that's definitely one of the things that you can pull off. But in the later stage of the game, when you have also a lot of chaos erupting in these team fights, having something like fission bombs and then Master of Flames as level 20 talent can give you a lot of value in a situation like this when it comes to these type of fights with a lot of bodies in the game. So that's something that they could definitely do. He decided to go into the backdraft against the Mirrodin and against the Thrall. This is definitely a good choice. So he just tries to make sure that the Vikings are also going to have a bit of a tougher time flanking, because with play again, that's what you're usually looking for. Besides that, the unfair advantage has been chosen after the Nature's Culling and after the Natural Perspective. So it's a Toxins, it's a Toxins play that we're seeing here on his part. There's a few talents where he could have made adjustments, namely level 1 and level 7. I guess if he would have been really afraid of Li Ming, then Greater Spell Shield on 13 would have been an option too. In this case, not used. But the fight is now starting at the bot lane. Vikings are taking the top temple down here. The Sundering being used. Phoenix in play. Sportbilly trying to go for the resets. Can't get the kill though. And Eternal has to retreat a bit since he's attacked. Nice palm on JPL. Well done by Bakery. The Vikings coming with play again. They have no 16 yet. Maybe a bit of a mistake here by Grand Paqueta. Usually you are trying to not fight with the Vikings until you have the level 16 talent for the stun on Olaf. Once that happens, you can get set up very nice flanks. In this case, he actually risked it, and that left the top temple now open for a few more shots to be taken. And Bakery is taking advantage of the situation at the bottom of the map. We're seeing now also the Vikings back to the top. In terms of kills, definitely not a kill-heavy game yet. Early game kills were the most of it, and this snipe against Jay. Well done here. The jump in this case negating the living bomb damage and keeping Olaf alive, but a really cool snipe against Zul. And it's one of the huge strengths that we are seeing on the side of Team Teh89, the ex-NaVi squad, of course. They have the opportunity to just go into these battles and go for a stun lock kill, which is exactly what just happened to Zul here. Jay therefore down. Athero is taking over with Mirrodin, one of the best heroes to actually just like soak a temple and go for it. And we slowly and steadily see Teh89 not only take a lead in experience, but also start to kind of equalize the situation when it comes to the structures on the map. All of the forts have by now been eliminated. Overall, I still have to say that Dignitas is, from a structural point of view, slightly ahead, but their problem is really the experience at this point. Grand Baketa has done a great job soaking with his Vikings throughout the entire game. I mean, I can give you a bit of a peek here. We're seeing him currently with 22,000 experience taken, and he had those Vikings nearly throughout the entire game on all 3 lanes present, so that was very strong. Zul with 11,000, still looking pretty solid here, mostly because he was pushing lanes for a long time, especially in the early stages. The mid and the bot lane is what he was soaking here. But now there's the 16, and with a large and in charge, we're having Olaf now in a situation where he can, of course, always go for that mini-stun that I've been talking about. And that opens a lot of play-again plays up for the Vikings with potential flanks. So that's going to be very crucial here. Also, Muradin, very tanky at the front right now, going for the stone form. We're seeing the mirror ball after glass cannon. So Sport Billy is really just trying to do as much damage as he possibly can. And again, as mentioned before, if he can capitalize on a pre-stun by hitting all of his abilities at once, he can just basically blow any target to pieces within seconds. The boss has been claimed also in the meantime by Teh89. They snuck that in and are trying to push in with it now to get a bit more value out of all of this. At the top lane, we're seeing still Grand Baketa going straight for another deep push. This time actually attacking, since he has to deal with one of the camps here. Boss only going through the wall was not really something that they could do too much with, especially with Lunara being able to access Nature's Culling. There was very little that they could really do, since this is still a bit early in the game, and therefore Lunara can dish out a lot of damage here. Dignitas didn't overextend, they just were trying to soak the 16, and they have it finally, so this is the moment when they can attempt to go into fights again. Starwood Spear is here, we're having the Sun King's Fury, we're seeing also the Circle of Life, and we're having here the amplified damage. I like the decision of Dignitas to actually not even try and go for a contestation at the boss, since they couldn't really fight without the level 16 talent. At this point, on the other hand, they can finally go for a straight up battle against the blue team, now that the temple is up again. When we're talking damage, we have Li Ming with 27,000, a really great spot, and it shows again how much he can capitalize on these pre-stuns. So very nice play here on the side of Sport Billy too. But Dignitas is now trying to go into these 5 versus 5 battles, but the Vikings are still soaking. And we have a 2-level lead thanks to the Vikings now for Teh89. So they try to go into the level 20 to capitalize on the Storm Talents a bit more. But we are seeing Dignitas desperately attempting to at least get a lead in structures and maybe push one of the keeps down, which would be a huge victory for them this early in the game, so that they can get a bit more pressure against the Vikings and Teh89 in particular. So for now, we are seeing a 2-level lead, but still that fight here. And they have to kind of take it. I mean, Dignitas, they need to grow a pair here. They have 5 heroes, and of course, a lot of their setup is really trying to get the poke damage against the opponent. But this is a 5 versus 4 still. The problem is that with Grand Baketa over here in the bush, we can always see that play again Viking flank, and this is what Dignitas is currently afraid of. It's why they are so hesitant here, even though the Vikings are still soaking the lanes. Engages maybe there, but here comes the play again. Grand Baketa tries to go for it, and Snitch gets palmed and survives the Poison Nova pretty randomly by Jay. Doesn't really do the damage. The Owl hits him in the face and drops him. The stun is taking Snitch out, and all of a sudden it's not only a 2-level lead, but it's a 5 versus 3 in favor of Navi, or well, Teh89, the ex-NaVi squad, and they are trying to make it another triple kill, and Mena has no chance of escaping here. Very well played. 7 kills against 1. Incredible play on their part. And now they not only do they have camps again, pushing the bot lane, pushing the top lane, but look at Grand Baketa immediately starting to split the Vikings to head into level 20. They're trying to get maximum value out of these 3 kills, and they are pushing the first keep down in the game. And with the Vikings at the top lane now assisting the camp that has been taken earlier, this could also, of course, mean at least wall at the top keep, and that was Grand Baketa currently aiming for. They also have the level 20 talents right now, and that means Temporal Flux for Li Ming. We're seeing them with, well, after play again, now heading straight into the additional checkpoint reach, which makes things, of course, even a little bit more annoying for Dignitas. We're seeing the Bolt of the Storm, the Hardened Shield, and at this point we could, of course, see the upgrade for the heroic ability on the side of Tyrande. We could also, there's a couple of things that Tyrande can really throw in the mix at this point. It makes sense to go for a bit more of a heal approach with her, since, of course, against Zul and Lunara, she needs to do something here. But you can really see the entire game strategy that we have of Teh89, trying to capitalize on the Vikings and force very fast and decisive battles, not really getting too much soaked down. And there it is, the Hunter's swiftness. I'm liking it a lot. It's really just like that approach to rush into the opponent. And for Dignitas, this is a bit of a disaster. Losing that last fight was pretty brutal because now they are behind by 2 levels. And, well, that's not news, but it's a 2-level window in which the Storm Talents are on play for Teh89. Whereas we are seeing Dignitas just desperately trying to reach the Storm Talents, deep pushing the lanes. And time is not in their favor. They lost the keep already, and there's 2 temples now on the map that can both be soaked by Vikings. And that's exactly what Grand Paquette is trying to do here. The fight on the bottom of the map, on the other hand, that's a different story. Sport barely getting out of there, and we are seeing Grand Paquette moving away. He is going to lose. No, he's not going to lose Balog either. And at the top lane, we're seeing the Vikings still keep pushing a camp that Dignitas has taken. Temple shots are soaked and shots are fired. Here comes the Thero. Vikings in play once again. Grand Paquette is there. Eric is down on the other hand. That's a bit of an issue, but the mid temple is being soaked and is starting to shoot straight up against the keep in the middle of the map. And that would be keep number 2 of Dignitas that falls here. Viking flank is happening. Here comes Li Ming. Bakery with a palm on Mena. He survives, but not for long. Palm was triggered, but he's still eliminated. And this is a disaster for Dignitas. In comes the kill against JPL. Bakery is low. Bakery is dead. Lunara is down. And the only hero that is still alive is Alex on his Johanna. He is running away, but, well, this is going to be the end of her. And also the end of the game. Great performance here by Teh89 in this first game against Dignitas. The Viking play of Grand Paquette, absolutely exceptional. First time that I've seen him on the hero, but I would definitely love to see him on it a little bit more often. He's the only one that lost a few Vikings over the game. Nobody else died. 12 kills against 1. And Teh89 in the best of 3 series here at Dreamhack Tour in the group stage takes the lead against Dignitas with a 1-0 after the victory here on Sky Temple. Game number 1 ended up in favor of Teh89. And well, guys, once again, the series here took place during Dreamhack Tour, and therefore I'm casting the replays, of course. I haven't seen these games yet, and I have also not seen the draft yet, so we're going to go over the draft, but that's why we are currently looking at the completed draft instead of just going through it pick by pick. So in this case right now, we're playing Tomb of the Spider Queen, and, well, things started off with a ban on the side of Dignitas, and they got rid of Khaldor, which actually, looking at it, I already find slightly interesting, since I would have expected them to go into a Khaldor pick themselves, or at least to try for it. But on this map, you oftentimes end up in a bit of a scenario where people are thinking, okay, do we ban Illidan right now? Do we not ban him? There was a long time when Illidan was actually not really considered to be good on the map. The reason is quite simple. It's a very small map, and for Illidan, one of the things that he needs is space. Illidan thrives on chaos, on space, and the distance between the 2 forts, for example, at the beginning is very short. So Illidan cannot really have a huge impact up to the point where the forts are starting to fall, and all of a sudden the distance to safety for your opponent is a lot higher, a lot bigger, then Illidan can get a little bit more value. So also an Illidan comp after losing Illidan is easier to punish because you're much closer to your opponent's bases and can take him down there. So Illidan has seen a lot more play recently on Tomb of the Spider Queen, but there was a time when he was not considered to be good here, which is why the draft pattern is already shaking up a little bit, since this is one of the map where teams are saying, like, well, do I have to ban Illidan now? Do I not have to ban him? So there's a few things to really talk about. But yeah, it started off with a ban on Khaldor. He, of course, thrives on Tomb of the Spider Queen. I'm, in that sense, surprised a bit that I could have seen Dignitas try and go for him. They decided to let him go here because they have other plans with that draft. Teh89 started to ban out Zul then, on the other hand. And Zul, of course, is one of those elements that really helps you to just push quite heavily. Tomb of the Spider Queen is a lot about just wave clear in general. You're trying to get control over the 2 turn-in spots, you're trying to get a lot of gems, and you attempt oftentimes to snowball against an opponent. There's of course a couple of different ways on how you can play the map. You don't necessarily have to go full wave clear, but it helps you to at least add some wave clear to your composition, but you can also go for strong rotation compositions that allow you to snipe a target and rotate between mid-top, occasionally the rotation to the bottom lane, and trying to just like get a bit of an advantage by taking down heroes in the early stages of the match. Dignitas, they started with the Azmodan. That's already a bit of indicative how they are going to try and play this. A Azmodan is these days just one of these jack of all trade heroes that on a map like Tomb of the Spider Queen gives a great vision of the turn-in spots. You have good clear on waves. You have also the option to just like enable with the double support one of the frontliners, a bruiser like Sonya, like Thrall, Illidan, for example. And that really gives you a lot of value and survivability on the map in general. Tacita is insanely good. So Dignitas already like heading towards something like this. It leaves them very flexible in the draft. And Teh89, they went into a Johanna and a Zagara. Now, that in itself is not really crazy on this map. Usually you wouldn't prioritize a Johanna this heavily on the map. Zagara, a little bit more. She's very strong on a solo lane in particular, and usually on Tomb of the Spider Queen you have that or to the bottom of the map. It's more or less, I guess it's mainly Teh89 right now that plays Zagara, and we are having My Insanity actually play her a lot. We've seen a lot of games also like in the final of Dreamhack being played with Zagara, but that's not really too crazy just yet. You can still argue a bit about the priority on Johanna, but of course we are currently able to see the entire draft already, so we kind of know a little bit what the idea is here for Teh89, and therefore it makes a lot more sense. But this is one of those things that you see, and it doesn't really throw you off too much on Tomb of the Spider Queen. On another map, it would be one of the things where you're like, wait a second, why do they prioritize her this highly on the map? So yeah, they take Johanna here. She has the wave flare with Night Takes Pawn, of course. That really helps. And Dignitas, they are reacting in this case with now Li Ming and Muradin. Li Ming on this map can be quite nice because she can interrupt the channels on the turn-in spots and has a very nice poke. And with a Muradin already in the mix, we are looking immediately at a situation where they are trying again to lock down a target, to have that pre-lockdown for Li Ming to get her damage in. So already a very tanky frontliner here as well. Very solid setup for Dignitas, a bit more standard here in this sense. And you can already see that with the ban coming in on the side of Teh89 on Tyrande, they're a bit afraid of that rotation game that I've been talking about earlier. If you have Muradin Tyrande, again, plus a Li Ming, that's actually what Teh89 played on the first map, then you can just snipe targets away so easily. So Teh89 just says, yeah, we don't really want to deal with this. It's a small map, rotations are strong here. Let's make sure that they don't have the Tyrande Tacita together and Tyrande plus Muradin and get that out of the way. Dignitas countering with an Illidan. In this situation, they're just looking at it, they're like, all right, we know that this is one of the options that they have. Illidan, we don't really want to deal with him. He can just like do too much damage here, and he's incredibly strong. Let's just make sure that this is not going to be a thing. So the next two picks were quite important here for Teh89, and they decided to go into the Sonya plus Rhaegar. That has a couple of reasons. First of all, if you go into the Sonya, you pick it away from Dignitas. Dignitas started with Tacita, and Tacita plus an additional support make the best team if you want to empower any kind of bruiser at the front line. And Sonya is very powerful in that sense, and she's prioritized by a lot of teams for it. So Teh89, they pick her away, and they have now with Sonya a hero that can really create some space for them. They can be aggressive at the front, that can also just get a bit of single target burst in here, but it's a very cool addition for them. It's also a great pick away from the opponent. Rhaegar helps Sonya out a lot, and he has the big advantage on this map that he can use with the Lightning Shield also a lot more wave clear for his team. So that is pretty cool for them right now. They want to have the Rhaegar for a couple of reasons too, especially since Rhaegar can also be quite a nuisance for Azmodan, which of course is their game plan here, since he can also heal minions just a moment before Azmodan hits his Orb of Annihilation to get those extra stacks. So that can be really annoying. Uther can of course do that to a certain extent too, but yeah, Uther has a little bit of a tougher time than later on healing out all of that damage. So the thought process of Teh89 is pretty sweet. This is a solid setup already, and this is one of those things where you just look at it and it's just like, this is not too bad. And Dignitas, I think they never really saw that Azmodan coming. They went into an Uther and Thrall on their next picks, and now we're looking exactly at the setup that we already talked about earlier. Tacita, Uther, trying to empower Thrall, Muradin, Thrall together. It's a very beefy setup at the front. It's very good damage. Li Ming has a lot of space here. It's created. They have good control. Thrall can go to the bot lane against Zagara. Have that. It's a nice solo lane that they have here. They are having a good double support. Wave clear on Tacita. They have the Li Ming, they have Muradin. They have a lot of good assets here in this game, and a very strong team fight match as well. Yeah, well, and then Teh89 drops the Azmodan bomb, and that, of course, is one of those moments where, as Dignitas, you're looking at it and you're like, maybe a Karazim wouldn't have been too bad here, since if Azmodan really gets his stacking going in the late game, then of course the problem that you have is that Uther might struggle to heal all of this out. So in this case, Teh89 is saying, hey boys, we have a good bot lane, we have Zagara, we have Johanna and Sonya, plus a Rhaegar with a lightning shield to help Azmodan out, so he is going to get his stacks eventually, and then we're just going to rule the Lord of the Court, and we're going to try to dunk them, and dunk them hard. So it's a pretty sweet setup that we have. Dignitas is trying to control control the rotation in the middle, and for them it's really going to be important to try and deny Azmodan some stacking. That's the big question here. How much can Teh89 actually stack? And the viewers amongst you that have been around for a long time in Heroes of the Storm, they still remember times when on Tomb of the Spider Queen, the draft basically started with Azmodan either being banned or picked first, because he was just so incredibly strong. And that is one of those things that I personally liked a lot, because I thought it was cool and funny, and I'm very happy to see Azmodan on Tomb of the Spider Queen again. The question, of course, is can Dignitas just completely obliterate this combo and take it down before it gets too strong, or how exactly are they going to play with it? Dignitas needs the win here, or they're going to lose this group stage match at Dreamhack against the ex-NaVi squad, which would, I guess, be very rewarding for Teh89, since, well, let's face it, Dignitas picked their tank player away. And I'm not quite sure if there are any hard feelings between Alex and the team. I doubt it, to be honest. But still, it's one of those things that makes this a bit of a grudge match as well. So let's jump in. Tomb of the Spider Queen. Game number 2 between Dignitas and Teh89, the ex-NaVi squad. Game on Tomb of the Spider Queen with Teh89 in lead in the best of 3 series here at Dreamhack. And, well, for now, as you can see, we have to the left side currently Zarmany on Johanna. We're seeing Eternal on Sonya. Gran Paquette went back to the support after his Viking game on Sky Temple. He's playing Rhaegar. And Aethero is actually the one playing Azmodan here with a Sport Billy on Zagara. So, pretty cool setup for the boys. And to the right side, we have Dignitas with a bit of pressure on them, of course, now. Bakery on Uther, Snitch on Tacita, JPL, Thrall. We have Min on Li Ming, and Alex is playing Murden for the team. So this is going to be a fun one once again, and there he is, the Lord of the Court. Azmodan is in the game, is in the house. And Aethero is going to try and play this bad boy. We're having, of course, Taste for Blood taken as the level 1 talent here. It's the most crucial part for him. We are seeing at the same time, in terms of talents, a lot of globes coming in, especially with the double Conjurer's Pursuit for Tacita and Uther here. Makes perfect sense, of course, if you think about the map in particular. Right now, we're having at the same time now everybody else taking position, especially Zagara at the bot lane is doing her thing. We're seeing Thrall rotating down as he should, so the 2 solo laners have taken position, and everybody else is trying to go for the stacks. Now, Azmodan is already trying to get the first few in here. He's going to throw that globe whenever he can. Zarmany is going to try and get a quick Nitex Pawn Condemn in so that Azmodan can do that. At the beginning of the game, you actually have to help out a little bit more, maybe with a Lightning Shield over the quick Whirlwind on Eternal before Azmodan can really get that dunk in. But they are playing this quite slow here, not overreaching. They know that Dignitas is very scary at the beginning of the game with the composition that they play. They don't have a Tyrande, but they have enough. There he comes, another couple of stacks for Aethero. Keep in mind that, of course, you are still capped at 500 with Azmodan, but we are definitely going to keep a pretty close look at how exactly he gets those stacks in the game and how many he has. Once again, a nice hit right here, and the stack process is currently at 28 bonus damage. So we're going to keep close tabs on that, as I already mentioned, but yeah, you try, of course, to get enough. So, like, the limit here is if you have 80 stacks or 80 extra damage at level 10, then with a Black Pool as your heroic, you can eliminate an entire wave in one single globe. And this is, like, the minimum requirement that you usually go for. Of course, ideally, you want to have more by that time. You can actually get a lot more by level 10 than that, but this is the idea that you have behind all of this. So for now, we are already seeing that the teams are basically just evening out here. Experience is the same. It's a stacking process that is going actually very well right now for Teh89. But we are seeing Dignitas with a bit of aggression against the heroes. They are trying to make their plays. Azmodan going straight for the laser. The teams are heading into level 4 now, but maybe the kill against Rhaegar. Gran Paquette is getting away, or is he? Azmodan is still stacking, and Gran Paquette, he's rushing to the top. Gets away. Well done here. Even heals Zarmany and helps him to escape. A solid play here on the side of Teh89, not losing the hero. Down here, Aethero is already trying to just like pre-damage the minion wave a little bit so that he can get his stacks in a bit easier. And there we go, damage after damage point ending up on the Globe of Annihilation. We're having now the Army of Hell taken, which is also a pretty important tool to have for additional push as well. Keep in mind that there is, of course, a huge need for wave clear in this game in particular when you are playing on Tomb of the Spider Queen. I also want to point out that the Aethero Angel with his Azmodan is going to try and delay team fighting for as long as he possibly can. You have to think about it like this. Every single globe that you hit against an opponent's hero is a globe that misses a minion wave. So that's a globe that makes sure that you don't get additional damage. So the goal for Azmodan is always to start team fighting and throwing globes against opponents as late as you possibly can in the game to make sure that you get a huge amount of stacks first and that you really can dish out the damage. Because if you start to go into team fights and you have to throw your globe on opponents' heroes, you are basically just like delaying a max damage on your orb for a long, long time. At this point, he's already at 94, and well, keep in mind what I told you about having 80 at least when you're reaching level 10. He's way ahead of that. And they're doing a fantastic job when it comes to getting extra damage for Azmodan right now. Dignitas needs to be really careful here, because first of all, they're starting to lose the bot lane. We haven't really looked at it too much yet. But JPL losing the lane against Sportbilly with the occasional rotation coming in from Sonya. And this is starting to become very tricky for Dignitas, to be quite frank, since they are not executing the pressure that they would love to go for with the setup that they have right now. They couldn't get any kills yet, and that's what you're not trying to do against Azmodan. I mean, ideally you kill Azmodan, but they didn't do that at all just yet. Right now they are starting to lose ground at the bot lane, and they are also not stopping Azmodan from stacking. Athero has all the time in the world to go for the stacking process. They are starting to reach level 7, and Athero is already at 120 bonus damage. That is borderline insane. He's 130 already. Again, if you're really putting pressure on Azmodan, if you're controlling the rotations in the beginning of the game, you can really start to screw with the stack process of Azmodan, but they are far from it. They at least kill Sonya here, and that's exactly what they need to do. Make those rotations work so that they can get a few hero kills in, that they can maybe turn in first, and there's already an attempt of turning in. The Web Weavers are going to be very crucial and very important here. And now we have the level 7s. Rapid incubation already taken on the side of the Sportbilly at the bot lane. He wants to have the lane sustained so that he can push this in even harder. And he's doing a fantastic job, by the way, on his Zagara. But he needs to be careful of these rotations, but Bakery is too late on his Judgment Uther, is not able to reach him for a quick stun. Even now, Sportbilly with the Roach is trying to lay the turn-ins, and in the meantime, Athero Angel is just still on his carpet here. And nothing really makes me happier than seeing Azmodan on one of these carpets. Like, he's spreading the arms to the side, and he's always going for the whee, and just flies to the area. We're gonna have a close look at that. The blue Web Weaver is even descending right now, and I mean, that is crazy. So right now, another big three-pointer here for Azmodan. And guys, this is great for Teh89. I mean, this couldn't be any better. Usually, as the Azmodan comp, you're absolutely alright not getting the first turn-in, since you know that Azmodan is going to... There he is again. Whee! But this time Zagara is actually dying at the bot lane. So, the Web Weavers are there, but as I said, you're normally alright not getting the first Web Weaver wave, and you just try to take as little damage as possible from your opponent controlling the objective to make sure that you can come back with Azmodan. This game is going completely the other way. Yes, Dignitas is ahead in experience, but the problem is that Athero and his boys are getting very close to hitting level 10 as well, and even taking a lead, and they have the first Web Weaver wave, which not only gives them good structure damage and experience, but it also delays the Web Weaver waves of their opponent. And again, time is of the essence here. It's really important. So right now, once again, the mid lane is being attacked. Both teams trying to head into level 10. Another three-pointer to the bot lane. More going down. 200! Nearly 200 bonus damage! Boys, we are not even 7 minutes into the game and we're seeing Athero on 200 extra damage any moment right now. And this is before they hit level 10. This is insane! There's also not too much pressure yet by Dignitas. Dignitas is finally getting a turn in, and they also have their level 10s with a wave of force where they can maybe put a hero out of position to take him on, especially with the Sundering, also in play. But this is definitely starting to get a little bit iffy. At least this is one of those things that can lead to disaster. They have to make their plays, and they have to make their plays soon. Infernal Globe has been chosen. Now the Black Pool, of course, as the level 10, and this is when Athero is going to start and have some fun against the minion waves. Once more, keep in mind, he's going to try and delay attacking heroes with those. Unless he gets a kill, he's not going to try and hit those. He hits for the wave again, and he is at 220. So usually with Azmodan, I mean, you really don't want to start fighting before you have 300. Ideally, you even want to delay it further than that. But if you are forced to, you're going to try and participate in one of those fights. But the idea is to always use the cooldown for another wave on lane and really try to get some value out of it. Already another big globe hitting the backline, trying to take down a few minions, and also, of course, the Web Weaver damage. Well done thus far, and the Web Weaver is defended against, and they are not really behind in experience. Azmodan comes, they thrive in the late game. That's where they are strong. And they are already on par with Dignitas this early on. Dignitas has 2 kills against 0. But if you've ever seen a good Azmodan composition play, then you know that Dignitas is definitely not in a spot where they are happy with their performance so far. They're saying, boys, we need to do a little bit more here. We need to make sure that we do our work. Ethereal forced to now participate here already. Has to go for Mene. Is once again up here. It's just waiting. We are 9 minutes into the game and we're seeing him at 230 still. Here's going another hit. He's hitting Bakery. Not enough damage just yet. But the web weaver for the red team is once again descending. So now they're getting the damage and I'm liking it. That's the Sundering. They're trying to go for Ethereal. Ancestral hits him. Again, the globe is being dropped, but it looks like Alex is going to get out of this one. No kill for Dignitas on the other hand, but they have the web weavers traveling in, and that's the important part. Again, big hit here. Well done. When it comes to siege damage, we have Azmodan at 66k, 20,000 damage against heroes for Zagara. We're also having the same amount of damage on Li Ming for Dignitas. But this is a moment when Dignitas can try and head into level 13 a little bit faster than their opponent. This is really the play that they need to make. And they are making a good rotation happen at the bot lane. We're having Thrall at the top, so it's a 4-1 split that they're running here, with Thrall trying to just add a bit of wave clear to the top lane so that the web weavers can get more damage against the structures. Down here, again, Ethereal with a pressure play against the web weaver, lasering that one down to Shitsville. Well done. But we are seeing the top lane still being pressured a bit by another web weaver, and the towers are gone. Most of those wells are also eliminated, and this is actually starting to look a little bit better for Dignitas right now. They still get their level 13 pretty early, so that's good. Azmodan is doing his Azmodan things. We're seeing Alex and the rest of the boys waiting for the camp to spawn at the bot lane so that we can get a bit of additional wave pressure. But Ethereal with another good hit here and making sure that he is getting closer and closer to max stacks. He's already at 280 right now, and this is really going to start to increase his damage significantly. Boom! Another one. Easy peasy. Taking it down here, another 8 damage points permanently on his orb, which is going to be huge right now. And we see at the same time now also the level 13 talents. There's another big one. Azmodan once again with the jump here. The Globe of Annihilation on 304 extra damage as we speak. Bot lane pressure now happening, but Zagara already there, trying to make sure that those 2 Siege Giants are not going to get enough value for Dignitas to be really worth their while. The 13s are, of course, now also in play. And I mean, at this point, if you're looking at it, we're having the Shrink Ray, mainly against Sonya than anything else. We're seeing Prescience, we have the Giant Killer, Illusionist after Calamity, and we're having a Thunderstrike now taken from Erden too. But now it's again 13 versus 13, and the March of Sin is kicking in on 13. So that Azmodan can put the laser show in. Nice good hook once again, and he's really starting to do some work. The Earth Shield also used. Besides that, Rhaegar going for a bit of a speed build, which helped him already with the earlier escape here. Running with the Wolf Run on level 1 and having then also the Feral Heart on level 4 for the additional lane sustain, so that he has to move back a little bit less frequently. But now it's still that level lead, or well, yeah, the level lead that we have for Dignitas. But these things are starting to do work. I mean, look at how much damage that already does. Ethereal is able to really start hitting heavy globes against the opponent. And that was, by the way, the money shot right there. Hitting 4 heroes plus a minion wave. I mean, that's the dream of any Azmodan player. Ho ho! They're more! But it denies the orb damage. Oh, but still, look at this. A 4-man more. It is a work of art. This is sexy style. Oh my god. And someone just got dunked. Get dunked, son. Down goes Tazadar. Very nice hit. And Azmodan is putting the laser show in, trying to take down Zagara at the same... Zagara. The Web Weaver. It's another spider, not quite the same, but yeah. And at the same time, he's hitting now also the mid-wave for additional wave clear. And here he comes again, and guess what? We are seeing him at 344 already. He's 150 extra damage away from going straight for the maximum. We're already seeing that 12 minutes into the game. And right now the lead... Oh, look at that hit against Jay! He gets away with the Wind Fury, or does he? Azmodan, always a threat. Does he get the cooldown ready again? Up here to the top is Azmodan. Gem count, really important by the way. With all the Web Weaver waves that we already saw for Dignitas, this is now the time for their opponent to shine. And 97 of those gems in the hands of Teh89 already tell the tale pretty much. If they are able to turn all of those in and don't lose them, they have nearly 2 Web Weaver waves right there. They actually do nearly, yeah, they do have 2 waves right there if they pick a few ones up. Already, Eternal is in position trying to make it work. A lot of the heroics had to be used though, and that is a bit of a problem for them right now, since they have to wait until they are off cooldown to really take a big fight. But they simply rotate up to the top turn-in spot, and there they get an easy turn-in right now on most of them. Wow, actually, Zarmedy, did he stop that? Wow, that actually looked like he stopped it. I don't even know if it was cancelled. It looked for a moment like he really stopped it just before it hit. So now they are at 99 gems. And, well, looking at the damage output for a moment, Azmodan is already at 123,000 siege damage. And he also, as you can see, took over the most hero damage for his team. Once again, and he hits Alex, and he hits Alex hard. 34k on Azmodan. We have 30,000 on Liming, just to give you a bit of an update there. Another big hit to the top, and as I said, prioritizing the minions still, because he wants to have that max damage, that juicy 500 extra damage on every single globe. There we have it again into the middle, and Mene losing about 40% of his HP to one single globe of annihilation. Things are starting to look a little bit dicey in these fights. As long as Thero stays far back, it's going to be a bit rough for Dignitas to get close. That's why they have the wave for force, so that they can put him out of position. That's why there's Sundering is going to be absolutely brutal. 16 talents are also in play now, at least for Dignitas it is, and that helps them with the Stoneform and Mirrodin, and also the extra damage thanks to the Mirror Ball for Li Ming. But once more, it's just safe play for their opponent. Only one fort in play still for Teh89, by the way. So they lost more structures. They lost a lot more structures. That's definitely true. Turn-in, by the way, nearly completed for Teh89 now. And they have the level 16, where we are still seeing the Earthgrass Totem, even though there was no Colossal Totem taken for Rhaegar. And we are also seeing a blood for blood for Azmodan. Shot after shot is being fired. And Kobe would be proud of Azmodan's performance here, because he is hitting everything. 440 extra damage, another hit into the middle, and Mene is also suffering a lot of hit point losses thanks to this one. We are seeing a battle for the turn-in happening as Zarmany is starting to drop a bit low, but Ancestral is still available, had not to be used yet. Ho ho, Mene! Yeah, Bakery is starting to struggle a little bit on his Uther. That's what we talked about during the draft. It's tricky for him later on in the game to really mitigate all of that damage that can be dished out. Once more, the big hit, and Mene is in trouble. Eternal is trying to capitalize on it, does not get the chance. Ethereal could go for the maw, but a nice stun prevents the timing. Also, the Divine Shield used maybe a bit early for Jay. They were expecting a burst on him. Again, Alex in trouble as Ethereal moves in. March of the Sin thingy is also there. But, well, let's see the damage for a moment. 45k on Azmodan. Second highest damage dealer in the game against heroes is, by the way, Zagara still. And the turn-in for the blue team. I mean, at some point they have to make that work, right? Oh! Burn! Ethereal! Again with the hits here. Mene is like, he is a globe magnet. I mean, every single time that thing travels, Mene is just somewhere close by. And that does really, really hurt. So for now, let's see actually how this is currently going for them now that they are going. They had to go back because Azmodan, he was so good that he ran out of mana doing all of this. We're having 16 versus 16 still. Eye-level fights. Again, another big hit against the minion wave. Azmodan is at 490. We're calling it here, boys. It's max damage on him. His Highness is ruling the court with an iron fist. And this is going to conclude it, I guess. 500 damage, it's the maximum. Blue Web Weavers, and from here on out, if Ethereal doesn't need to clear a wave, he is definitely going to go straight for the attacks against the opponent there. So yeah, this is going to become quite nasty. I am a little bit excited, I have to say. This is going to become very interesting, to say the least. But let's see how they can roll now with the Web Weavers, because this is the moment where Teh89 is really going to try and make a couple of plays. Max damage in Azmodan, Web Weavers coming in. They need to do something now, and there are the hits. This time dishing a bit of damage out, but Well was already activated, so in this case it didn't really seem like they're doing too much. Once more they're starting to jump in. There's the Ancestral this time on the side of Johanna. Another hit. Mene with a great dodge here, using his teleport. That was actually well done. Dodging those globes, those things hurt now. Top lane is still being pressured by the Web Weavers. The mid lane, they're starting to give that up a little bit. Ethereal is waiting for his cooldown. Actually, he has it ready. Could use it right now. He's waiting for his chance. Throws it in and clears the wave with it. Athero with another 5 seconds until he can use it again, but it's already just on the way for now. Just waiting for an opportunity to get that. They have to retreat, and well, this is actually important for us. His positioning is crazily important right now. He needs to stay in the back. He shouldn't get too close, but he gets a big hit in against Jay, and he's starting to laser Bakery into the ground. The force wall working against Bakery, actually. The double kill as Thrall dies, and now we're seeing them moving in again. Snitch is rushing away. It's a 5 versus 3 and Athero and the rest of Teh89. The ex-NaVi squad is starting to move in. Alex is still alive against his old teammates. He's starting to make, or trying to make the plays here, but Athero is just waiting for another opportunity to hit another big globe. Could go for the wave, goes for the heroes, and hits both of them. Great shot fired here by Athero. 60,000 damage already on Azmodan and 200,000 siege damage. He is very, very pleased with himself, as you can see here. Once again, just riding the carpet. Whee! I love this guy. Like, Azmodan is such a happy panda. I'm absolutely loving him. He's laughing the entire time. He loves his life, and he definitely loves to ride on the carpet or the doubloon. So Alex with a turn-in attempt. I mean, when it comes to gems, they don't have what it takes to get an entire turn-in. And as we said before, the problem that they are facing right now is that they had 3 turn-ins in a row and didn't really get too much value out of them. Well, they got some value out of it, don't get me wrong. They took a couple of forts down, they took the walls down, but now we have, with them not killing any heroes on the side of Teh89, a double turn-in for Teh89, and they are really starting to use that quite nicely. We are also seeing the 20s in play, and that brings us on the side of Azmodan. Well, not with the heroic just yet. We have actually the 5th circle taken here now too. Alright, now we're starting to have some fun. Okay, so 5th circle has been taken. You don't see that all too often, but in this case it kind of makes sense for them. Storm Shield taken, the Ignore Pain, once again, hits fired, shots fired everywhere. They're starting to move in, they have the lead, and Dignitas is behind in this series. Dignitas is behind already here in the group stage in this best of 3. Azmodan with hit after hit after hit, shot after shot, and he is dunking them down. The first keep is falling, and Dignitas just doesn't find an angle against this. In the first game they struggled with the Vikings, and right now they're really struggling against Azmodan. There's not a single death on Azmodan. He's rivaling the damage of any other hero in the game, not only in Siege but also in hero damage, and it's really a big issue now for Dignitas. Once again, the big hits here, and we're seeing them go for keep number 2, where the Web Weaver is still pushing the top lane. Bot keep has been destroyed, top as well. Over here, 500 damage as already said before. And again, the hit against the keep. He's just poking from a distance right now, trying to poke them down. And let's not forget that they still have a fair amount of gems that they could also turn in. But you can really tell how the problem for Dignitas is that they now also lost the top keep to the Web Weavers. The mid keep is under pressure. They're constantly pressed into their base since they don't have the level 20 talent. They need their Storm talents, but they just simply don't have them. And it's not only becoming a problem, it has been a major issue for a long time for them now already, that they just don't really have what it takes to lock a target down and take it apart before Azmodan is able to get the damage in. He pokes them down from a distance. Bakery is having trouble with the Uther alone to really negate the damage. Tassadar helps a bit with the shields and the preload, of course, but it is really a problem. And dunk after dunk after dunk. Azmodan, he just doesn't stop. 72,000 damage, 244,000 siege damage already, and another hit against Jay, and this is a problem for Thrall. Thrall is struggling here, and guess what? Another keep is about to fall. He's just like trying to go in with everything that they have. The keep is already dropping hit points, and a desperate attempt on the side of Dignitas to get a turn in. They have to do something. They finally have the level 20, and that allows them to move out, to push out, to do something here. With the redemption that they have, with the repulsion. We're seeing the Bolt of the Storm now taken for Thrall. That is a big asset to him too. And the rewind for Muradin even. But the keep in the mid lane has fallen. And that means no keeps in the game left for Dignitas. Dignitas doesn't have a single keep left. They're more or less all in. They have to do something. This is also an issue now because Azmodan is not only great for like the fights. Azmodan can now just simply dunk out all of these lanes, throw one hit after another to just get a bit of siege pressure in. They already have catapults on each lane, so the only thing that he has to do later on is just like from the mid lane, hit a ball or globe to the top, one to the bottom, and then all of a sudden lanes are going to push in even more heavily. Look how fast Snitch actually drops here. Snitch is dropping his hit points, a zip and they're gone. Bakery cannot heal all of this. Mena just barely teleported out of it, or it would have hit him too. Now it's just like, from a safe distance, the Web Weavers are taking damage, and even more damage. They're reaching the wall at the keep, and they're already down to 30%. Dignitas, they really need to win a crucial team fight now if they want to make a comeback into this, because it's really tricky. And the cool thing about Teh89 is they are playing it very safe right now. They are not making any kind of like bad, greedy plays. They know as long as they play a safe and stable game, they have the upper hand here. But Dignitas, they are definitely the one who feel the pressure, and they're also the one who have to make that play at some point. And it's going to be a tricky situation for them one way or another, since they are still without any structures to protect the core anymore. All of the lanes are going to push against them, and that is a massive, massive issue. Li Ming, by the way, has absolute incredible siege damage here. I want to highlight that once again. Mena, when it came to builds, went straight also here for the Calamity. That helps, of course, a lot with the wave clear as well, and it's really one of the things that we've seen him do the entire time. Boss is now taken up here at the top. It's a bit of a desperation move. They need to do something, and Alex is trying to zone for him as much as they can. But here comes the boss once again. There comes another big hit. Sundering use, but the Bolt of the Storm, and they're trying to steal it. Boss is taken by Dignitas, but the fight is still happening, and Azmodan is hitting the big ones now. He's hitting another one. It's the kill against Sagarazo, but Thrall is dead as well. Azmodan again with dunk after dunk. 3-point hit after 3-point hit. They're trying to laser Alex into the ground. Nice totem by Rhaegar to lock him into place. March of Sin is helping out as well. Azmodan doing his thing. No interrupt. Finally, something is happening. But here comes that globe. And the kill against Li Ming and against Uther. Bakery down. Li Ming down. Another totem by Rhaegar as Grumpaketa jumps in. And we're having Althero getting ready for the next globe here. Trying to throw that in now too. They're coming in. He clears the wave. The boss is going up to the top lane to at least move through the keep. But they want their core right now. They want their game right now. They go straight in for it. Alex is retreating, but well, he is dead as well. It's only Tassadar who's still alive, and his shields are just not good enough to heal all of that out. A 2-0 victory for Teh89 at the Dreamhack Tour versus Dignitas. Mena leaving the game. Althero a happy banda. 300,000 siege and 100,000 hero damage. Solid play by Azmodan on the court.